Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into my start and sit video. This is going to be the final one of the season. Just like I said on the waiver wire and streamable defense video, I can't believe we're already at week 17. People are going to be trying to go win themselves a championship. I know I got a few championships I'm trying to win some money this weekend. So I wish everybody the luck. And before I dive into this video, just like I said on the streamable defenses and waiver wire target video, guys, play the people that got you there. Like, obviously, if you kind of got lucky and you maybe play a running back I'm going to talk about here later in the video, where you got him off the waivers because of an injury happened, obviously you want to play him because of the volume they'll be getting. But other than that, play the studs that got you there. But obviously there are some rough matchups I am going to talk about in this video, so you do got to kind of balance that type of out. But I always go, for me personally, I always just try to play the guys that had more good weeks than not. I don't want to rely on somebody that maybe has been, having more of a down season, whether it's because of the situation he is in, or maybe his play has dropped off, or I'm not trying to rely on like a guy that just came out of nowhere that maybe had one good game in the past 2 weeks, because sometimes those guys will lay a stinker for you. So with that being said, I am going to go ahead and get into the top starts and sits for week 17 for Championship Sunday, starting as always at the quarterback position. My top start of the week, it's going with Jalen Hurts against the football team. He's clearly now back from his ankle injury, where you can trust him not re-aggravating anything. I think he's proved that over the last week. And he's got a really great matchup, right? Going against the Washington, who has allowed the most points per game by a mile to quarterbacks this year, giving up 23 points a game. So this is setting up success for Jalen on Sunday. And if you've been riding his high all season long, obviously you're going to want to ride that into Sunday, and he's got a great matchup to go help you win that championship. My other start, I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford against the Ravens. I'm not too worried about the 3 interceptions that he threw last week. I think he's set to have a bounce back performance against that decimated secondary in Baltimore. The Ravens have allowed the second most points per game to quarterbacks this year, giving up 19.9 points a game. So yeah, it's a decimated secondary going against a loaded skill position group. The Rams just lost Darrell Henderson, but I mean, Sony Michel's been running the rock. Cam Akers, I think, may make his debut, but I could see this being a game where they lean more into their passing offense and their passing attack, and Stafford could put up some good numbers for you in your lineup this week. Now, my sits, now starting with the top guy, Justin Herbert against the Broncos. Like, listen, Justin Herbert probably maybe had gotten to you at this point, right? If he's in your lineup, you're probably going to play him. He offers such a high ceiling on any given Sunday. But we have seen his floor games. I mean, he is coming off a rough outing against the Texans, out of all teams. And this week he's going against the Broncos, who, by the way, he struggled with earlier in the season. Vic Fangio and the Broncos gave him fits just not too long ago. So he's got a rough matchup. Denver is allowing the third fewest amount of points per game to quarterbacks this year, only giving up 14.3. Now, the league I do own Herbert in, I think you guys have heard me talk about it. I own Josh, not owned by on the team I manage. I have on that roster, it's a very small league. It's my work league. I have Justin Herbert and Josh Allen. So I have a little bit easier of a decision to be like, yeah, I'm gonna play Josh Allen this week against the Falcons easily over Justin Herbert against the Broncos. That's a little bit of an easier decision. So if you got to play Herbert, I get it. Like, he did get you here at this point. He still offers you a ceiling despite the rough matchup. But he had a bad game against Denver last time. He's coming off a bad game against Houston. So listen, if you would have another option than Justin Herbert, I would consider playing that option this week. My other sit, I'm going with Taysom Hill against the Panthers. He is going to be playing on Sunday. He was activated off the COVID reserve list because of the new rules that they got established. So he's going to be back this week. But with that being said, he's going against the Panthers, who have been really stingy against most positions in fantasy football this year. Carolina is only tied for the fourth fewest allowed of points per game to the quarterback position, giving up 15.4 points. So that's a bad outing for them. The Saints did lose to the Panthers earlier this season too. So that could play in a factor. And then, listen, we all kind of are understanding at this point with COVID, like it affects everybody differently. Like some guys can get off that COVID list and they're back to being the players they were. Some players, that maybe takes them a game or two, if not a few more games, for them to be conditioned and back to the player that they were prior to catching the virus. So there's always that possibility Taysom could be affected by that. But with that being said, I just think it's a rough matchup for him. And I know he kind of has that floor as a rusher, and I do apologize for Titan trying to clear his nose at the current moment. He's actually been dealing with that this morning. I don't know if he's got any allergies or something going on. But with that being said, getting back on track with Taysom, Panthers have actually been kind of stout against the run too. So I'm not sure if that even is if his typical rushing floor is going to be as high as it normally has been. If you guys get what I'm saying. So again, my top starts at the quarterback position: Jalen Hurts against the football team, Matthew Stafford against the Ravens, and then my sits: Justin Herbert against the Broncos and Taysom Hill against the Panthers. Moving into the running back position group, my top start of the week, it was the guy I was trying to not spoil with that I was talking about earlier at the beginning of this episode. A guy that you maybe picked up if you were one of those guys. It's going to be Ronald Jones against the Jets, and man, Ronald Jones might win people some money this weekend. He's going against the New York Jets, who have struggled against the run this year. They've always been the top team that you can play running backs against. They've allowed the most points per game to running backs this year, giving up 27.4 points a game. I expect Ronald's going to see a plenty amount of touches, and he's going to have a great opportunity to hit his ceiling and get you guys a good outing. So if you were one of the managers that were able to pick up Ronald Jones, then definitely make sure he's in your lineup on Sunday. My other starts, listen, these guys they did not deliver last week against the Raiders like I thought they would. But you can't ignore the matchup that they have this week. It's Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon against the Chargers. We just saw Rex Burkhead for the Texans run all over the Chargers defense. They have struggled to defend the run all throughout the season. I don't see why that's going to stop on Sunday. They have allowed the second most allowed points per game to running backs this year, giving up 23 points a game. I do, obviously, Melvin and Javonte, they split their touches. You kind of got to hope it's the guy that either takes advantage of his touches or at least gets the touchdown. So obviously I view them both as more of a flex play. But if you got them, this is a week that I would definitely consider them in your flex, in your lineup if you need a running back this week. My sits of the week, I'm going with Michael Carter against the Bucks. Listen, I'm very excited for Michael Carter as a fantasy running back next season, but I don't think he's a guy that you should be relying on in your lineup for your championship Sunday. He's got a rough matchup against one of the top defensive fronts in the NFL. Tampa Bay has allowed the fewest amount of points per game to running backs this year, giving up the 13.9 points a game. So it's going to be a rough outing. Even though he may see all the volume in the world, you're going to have to, if you end up playing Michael Carter for any reason, you're going to have to hope that he at least gets a touchdown for you and hits his floor this week. My sits, I'm going with both running backs in Arizona, James Conner and Chase Edmonds against the Cowboys. As of yesterday, both those guys did not practice, so that's another reason I think you should sit them. But they're both dealing with injuries, so even if one of them plays and they maybe, say only one of them play, right, and they're going to dominate the touches, I still don't trust that because they'll be entering the matchup injured, and they could easily re-aggravate that. And then if they both play, you're dealing with a 50-50 situation. And if you're dealing with a 50-50 situation with guys that are coming in injured that could easily re-aggravate something, they do have a rough matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys have allowed the fifth fewest amount of points per game to running backs this year, only giving up 15.1. So there's not a lot of wealth to go around, especially if they're going to be splitting touches. So I know James Conner had that nice little stretch for people, but if he's back in the lineup, I would be hesitant to play him. And I know Chase Edmonds got that, he had a decent outing last week, but I would definitely consider not playing him this week as he's dealing with that injury as well. So that's something to monitor throughout the week. But if you can avoid playing either of those guys, I would do it this week. So again, my top starts: Ronald Jones against the Jets, and then Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon against the Chargers. My top sits: Michael Carter against the Bucks, and then James Conner and Chase Edmonds against the Cowboys. Moving into my wide receiver starts and sits, My start. I talked about this guy in the top waiver wire claim of the week at the wide receiver position, Allen Lazard, and I also listened Marquez Valdes-Scantling because I'm not sure if he's been officially activated off the COVID list, but he should be coming back. And they got a great matchup against the Vikings this week. The Vikings have allowed the most points per game to wide receivers this year, giving up 27.4. So yeah, of course Davante Adams is going to get some of that, if not most of those points they be giving up. But if Minnesota decides, which they probably should be doing, but I mean the guy gets triple covered and he can still get open because he's so ridiculously good at his route running ability. But let's just say, the Vikings find some success somewhat limiting Davante Adams in this matchup, then that's going to set up a good game for Allen Lazard and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. So if you're looking for a flex play, a wide receiver 3 type play, I would definitely consider one of those guys if you end up having to deal with any guys being out for injuries or COVID, because you got to keep in mind, guys, they could still test positive and be out the 5 days, and that can happen up until game day. So you got to make sure you're ready for anything that could happen between now and then. My other start, I'm going with Devontae Smith against the football team. The football team, just like with the quarterback, they allow teams to pass all over them. This football team have allowed the third most points per game to the wide receiver position, giving up 25.8. Devontae's getting more comfortable at this level of football. He's being better and better every week. Every time I get a chance to watch the Eagles, when I rewatch those games, so I think he's set to have one of his ceiling games for his managers this week. So if you have Devontae Smith, I would definitely consider playing him in your lineup this week. My top sits. This is a guy from the Falcons that ended up proving he was a really good, nice little pickup mid-season for people at the wide receiver position. But I don't think he's a guy you should rely on this week. It's Russell Gage against the Bills. The Bills are one of the top defenses in the NFL, and they're really good against the pass. They've allowed the fewest amount of points per game to wide receivers this year, only giving up 14.2. So just Russell Gage, he did some good things for people, but he's not a guy I can trust to outcome a bad matchup like a really upper echelon wide receiver. So if you've been dealing with the benefits of Russell Gage's performances over the last a month and a half, this is not the week I think you should trust him in your lineup. My other sit, now this is a name where you guys probably drafted him pretty high, but I am going to go with Terry McLaurin against the Eagles. Terry, it's not his fault. He's dealing with really bad quarterback play in Washington. It's hard for him to see any consistency from the quarterback, and it's just and the numbers back it up. He hasn't really produced over the past 6 weeks. When they played the Eagles a couple of weeks ago, he had 2 or 3 catches. Now he went over the 50-yard mark, but that basically all of his yardage came on that one catch that he had. Didn't find the end zone, so he had a rough game, if you want to really be honest, against the Eagles just a few weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago. So his last time he played him, the outing wasn't that great. He's dealing with bad quarterback play. He hasn't been productive over the last 6 weeks. So if you would happen to have a better name, a better option than Terry McLaurin, I would highly suggest playing him. The Eagles have allowed the second fewest amount of points per game to wide receivers this year, only giving up 16.6. Listen, I get it. McLaurin's a guy that I do think can overcome a bad matchup. But if you can, play somebody else. If you end up playing him and he doesn't give you the outing you hope for, he just had a rough matchup, and he's got a bad quarterback throwing him the ball. Taylor Heinicke feels like he's kind of taken a step back over the last month. Now, moving into my tight end position, my top starts didn't really. He had an all right game last week, I feel like, but he didn't pull through like I thought he would. But I still think you can go back to the well with him just because it's based on the matchup. Noah Fant against the Chargers. The Chargers have allowed the most points per game to tight ends this year, giving up 11.5. So I can see him having a bounce back type of performance, and I could see him having a ceiling type of game for you. So if you're looking for a streaming option, I would not mind considering Noah Fant. My other streaming option for Championship Sunday. Now, this is something I want you guys to monitor. Jack Doyle got hurt against the Cardinals. He did not practice yesterday. The Colts kind of are basically, I think, in my opinion, I don't want to say that, then jinx my team. The Colts are as close to locking up a playoff spot as possible. All they need to do is win on Sunday, and they're in. And if they don't win on Sunday, they just got to beat the Jaguars in the final week of the year. So with that being said, the Colts, obviously they want as healthy as a roster as they can get for the playoffs. So I could see them not rushing, not forcing Jack Doyle into the lineup until he's 100% ready to play. So with that being said, it presents a great opportunity for Mo Alie-Cox. Mo Alie-Cox was a great streaming tight end earlier this year when he had that little stretch. And I think he maybe can come back and be that quality streaming tight end for people this week. He's going against the Raiders. He did score a touchdown against the Raiders last year when these two teams did play against each other. And then this year, as far as the Raiders against the position, they've allowed the third most allowed points per game against tight ends, giving up 10.4. So listen, like Mo Alie-Cox might be a sneaky streaming play for people this week. So if you find yourselves in a position, maybe a tight end gets ruled out with an injury, or maybe he pops up on the COVID list between now and Sunday, and you're scrambling for options, you see that Jack Doyle is officially out, I would not mind considering playing Mo Alie-Cox in my lineup. Now, my top sits. I'm going to go with Dalton Schultz against the Cardinals. Cardinals regained themselves as the top team against tight ends this year. They've allowed the fewest amount of points per game to tight ends, only given up 4.3. That's been pretty consistent throughout the year. The last couple weeks, they kind of fluctuated between the 1 to 3 mark, but they were the top mark for the first 2 months, and now they're right back up on top. So the numbers definitely say that if you can avoid streaming Dalton Schultz, I would definitely do that this week. Same thing goes with another streaming tight end that's been, he was more of a good streaming tight end in the first half of the year, kind of fluctuated throughout the second half of the year, and I don't think this will be a good matchup for you to try to trust him, which is Jared Cook against the Broncos. The Broncos have allowed the second fewest amount of points per game to tight ends this year, only giving up 4.4, and so I know like Donald Parham's done for the year, so that he could see that 7 target load, which is kind of what you guys know, that's what I'm kind of searching for in my tight ends. But with that being said, he just has a rough matchup. So if you have a better option to trust, like I would definitely play Mo Alie-Cox over Jared Cook this week. So again, my top starts, Noah Fant against the Chargers and Mo Alie-Cox against the Raiders. My sits, Dalton Schultz against the Cardinals and Jared Cook against the Broncos. And yeah, guys, that is the final top starts and sits for this season. I do appreciate anybody that stayed with me all season long. I hope I did get you to the championship game, and I hope I can help you win some money on Sunday. And as far as my fantasy football content, I kind of shut that down after the season. Listen, if I ever was getting paid to create fantasy football content all year round, I would absolutely love to do that. So I mean, if you're watching this video, you want to offer me that type of opportunity, I would definitely sign up for it. But with that being said, I kind of shut down the fantasy football content once the season's over. Then I kind of start looking into that, getting preparation, start collecting stats and whatnot towards like late May, June. So that's when you'll probably, if you like me for the fantasy football content that I create, that's when you can look for me to get back into the game. Probably sometime next summer. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the channel so you can keep up with that. Other than that, like I am gonna keep on doing my weekly previews until the Super Bowl. So what the plan is tomorrow I will be in the morning recording my weekly preview for this week's action. So stay tuned for that one. Now, next week, it's kind of up in the air. I will hopefully have more of an update for you guys tomorrow. I got to look into this, but I'm pretty sure the last week, the NFL is planning on flexing 2 NFL games for that Saturday. And if that happens, I believe I'm going to record my weekly preview next Thursday night. So I'll either update you guys on that tomorrow, but stay tuned. Obviously, subscribe to the channel so when you guys can know what to expect. But yeah, I'm going to figure out when I'm going to do my final week of the regular season preview video. And then in the playoffs, I plan on doing individual preview videos for each playoff game. And then once the season's over, guys, I'm going to start doing some scouting here in the next week or so, start getting into that point. I'm going to be doing a lot of scouting, so the content creation will be, I would say, sporadic. over the next few months. But once I nail down my final rankings on these players, I'm hoping to make some top 10 or something like videos at each position group. I may do some like free agency content, maybe some, I don't know, maybe do a top 10 quarterback free agent. I don't know. I'm thinking about that. I will let you guys know more. Other than that, I'm gonna go ahead and get off here so I can get this uploaded for you guys. So as always, before I wrap up, if you like this video, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe to my channel so you can always keep up with my latest content. Other than that, I'll be back here tomorrow, guys. I will be doing my weekly preview for this week's action, so stay tuned for that. I'll talk to you guys later. And hit me up if you in the comments, DMs, at me at Twitter at Cody Talks NFL if you have any fantasy football related questions between now and Sunday. I'll talk to you guys later.